Today, we're gonna show you how to set up your MC80 8-inch 70-volt commercial PA speakers. These are perfect for playing music at any restaurants, offices, gymnasiums, and much more. Now, because these are 70-volt speakers, let me quickly explain how 70-volt sound systems work. 70-volt amplifiers allow you to run large amount of speakers at a fixed and constant wattage off of that one amp. For example, you can run over 100 speakers off of one amp if you match the watts being drawn by the speakers to the ability of the amp. We can do that by tapping each speaker to a specific watt amount by using the tap control on the back of the speakers. For this instance, we would want to use the wires on the back of our speakers, but we'll get to that later. So if my amp has 100 watts, I could tap each speaker at 5 watts, giving me the ability to use 20 speakers. Now, if you use a multi-zone amp with these speakers, that opens up the flexibility to where you can control the audio and how it can be set up in your space. But the same principles apply. You have to match the tapped wattage amounts of your speakers to each zone's recommended wattage amounts, and then you'll be good to go. You'll also have independent volume control for the different speakers in the different zones. If you want to learn even more about 70-volt technology, check out our video, What is 70-volt? So now to begin our setup for our speakers, let's start with wiring. We'll first want to have some speaker wires ready to connect our speakers to whatever amp or receiver we're using. We'll want to take one end of that speaker wire and connect them to the wires on our speakers. Now, like I mentioned before, we're actually going to use the wires on the back of the speaker to tap each speaker at a certain wattage. Because we have all of these options available, we have full customization of the sound for any space where these speakers may be installed. For example, if we wanted to set up 10 speakers using 50 watts provided by our amp, we would want to use the blue wires that tap the speakers at 5 watts with the positive terminals. And remember, there are options for setups whether they be for 70-volt or 25-volt amps. We even have the option for 8-ohm wiring for these speakers, so we can connect them to any regular home theater amp or receiver. To do that, you'll want to disconnect the black and white wires from our 8-ohm bypass harness, and then just replace those with your regular speaker wires. Now, we can run more than one of these speakers off the channels of our 70-volt amp. So to show you guys how to parallel wire our speakers, I have 2 of our MC80s right in front of me here. So just like in our last setup, I'm going to take a speaker wire. I'm going to take the positive end and connect that to the tapped wire that we plan to use with our speaker. Today we're using the blue 5-watt wire. So we just twist them together like so. Then I'm going to take the black negative wire and twist that onto the black common wire off of our speaker. Twist them together, just like we did with the last one. So now to continue our speaker chain, I'm going to grab another speaker wire, and I'm going to take both of the positive red ends and twist them together. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing with the black negative ends. Twist them together like so. So now with both of those ends connected together, I'm going to take the positive wires and connect that to the tapped wire off of our second speaker, similar to like what we did before. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing with the black wires with the common wire off of our second speaker. So then you're going to want to continue this process all the way down with however many speakers you plan to use with your setup, and then with the last wires, connect that into the direct output or the available zones off your 70-volt or 25-volt amp. Now, it's very important that you cover any wires that you're not using in order to avoid any electrical fires. So now that we know how to connect our speakers in parallel and how to connect them to the amp, let's get them installed in a ceiling. To do that, you're going to take the included paper cutout guide and lay it onto your ceiling tile. Then using a blade, you're going to cut out a hole following the cutout guide. After that, you can place your speaker into where you cut out your hole. Now, to keep it in place for surfaces that you can gain access to through the back, like a ceiling tile, you can use the included bolts to screw into the holes on the grille of your speaker. Then on the back of the speaker, you'll want to use the included nuts on each bolt to hold it all in place with your tile. For surfaces that are harder and can't easily be accessed to, like sheetrock, you'll want to use the included screws and anchors. So once we have our speaker all wired up and set up to our ceiling tile, we can place the tile with the attached speaker back up to our ceiling and run the speaker wires from our ceiling to our amp. We can connect our speakers to the direct output terminals on our amp or into any of the available zones. On top of using the amp to control the volume coming out of our speakers, we can use the dial on the front of the grille to do this as well. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your MC80 8-inch 70-volt commercial PA ceiling speakers. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always guys, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you next time.